friends, it's Christy. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be making a card using Lawn Fawn's Ready, Set, Snow and Merry Messages. So I've stamped out the images I'm using in Lawn Fawn Jet Black ink on some Nina Solar White cardstock, and I'm going to be coloring with my Copic markers. I'm going to start with my snowmen and give them a nice frosty glow with the BG10, just adding a little light shading on them with that. And I'll also use that shade to add a little bit of glass color to the windows of the little town. And then I'll use YR04 and YR07 for the carrot noses of the snowmen. And then for the first snowman scarf, I'm going to use BG72, BG75, and BG78. So I wanted to avoid traditional Christmas colors because this is going to be a New Year's card. So I wanted more cool toned blues in there, this kind of wintry blue that would kind of resemble that wintry feel that you get at that time of year, you know, in 1st of January. So I did a first layer and then I did a second layer on that just to increase that saturation. I really love the way that looks and I wanted to leave that in the video so that you could see what a difference that second layer makes. I'm also going to use these shades on 2 of the stripes on the second snowman's hat band. I wanted to carry that color across the card and also just have like a multicolored hat band on him, just to also not be using traditional Christmas colors, even though I'm going to have some red in there because red is just such a bright, fun pop of color to use. But I decided to mix it up by throwing in a bit of orange. So I'm actually pairing the YR09 with the R29 and R39 just for a little bit of a different hue to that red combo. And I think it worked out really nicely. It adds this nice warm glow that kind of reminds me of a crackling fire or something, just because that little bit of orange in there kind of did something unique to this combo. I really like how it turned out. So I did the first snowman's earmuffs and the second snowman's scarf, and then 2 more of the little stripes on his hat brim. And then I also decided to use these shades on the center building in the little town. That could be a church or a school or like a town hall, whatever you want it to be, but I thought a nice dark red brick building would be nice there in the center. So I used the R39 for my shading on the outside edges, and then I'm working in toward the clock and the 2 windows with the R29, and then I'll fill in any white space that remains with the YR09. My next combo is B95, B97, and B99. And again, I wanted these kind of dusky, wintry blues, and these blues have a lot of gray tone in them, so I thought they would be perfect. So I did the top of the second snowman's hat, and then I'm also going to do one of these buildings. I was trying to decide which one I wanted to do, but ultimately I decided to do the smaller of the buildings. So I am adding that dark shadow with the B99 down at the bottom, and then a little line right up under the roof, and then I'm blending out with the B97 and then filling that in with the B95. And the reason that I chose to do the smaller of the 2 buildings was because this yellow combo that I'm using for the little pom-pom and the last remaining stripe on the second snowman's hat, I was only going to have it in that tiny little place, so I thought having it on the larger building as well would just kind of give it more oomph on the card. So I used Y91 and Y26 at first, and I blended it from the bottom up and then also put the shadow under the roof line. But there wasn't enough contrast for me, so I decided to pull in the YR23 and I added that to be my darkest, and then I blended that out with the Y26 and then the Y21 again, and I like that much better. I also decided to take the Y21 and add a little glow inside each of the windows. And I colored the clock with the Y21 as well. For the roofs of the houses, I used E23, E25, and E27. So again, I'm going to put that shadow down at the bottom edge of the roof and then a little line right up under the snow. For the third house, it looks like the roof is completely covered in snow because the bottom edge is kind of swoopy. It's not a straight line. So I just left that one uncolored. And while I'm at it, I also decided to color in the front doors with these shades just to keep things simple. So I blended out the E27 with the E25 and then filled in with the E23. And I almost forgot the little roof on the center building, so I just quickly went back and colored that in. Then I'm adding in C1 and C3 to do the little stone hearth in front of the buildings and also the chimneys. And I forgot to do the snow when I had the BG10 out, so I went back and grabbed that so I could do the snow on top of the houses. And then all that was left was the moon, and I decided to add in Y11 and just do a really pale moon. And then I trim these images out with their matching dies. So I'm going to be creating a Magic Iris card today using the Magic Iris Snow Globe add-on. So I pulled out this aqua paper that has the gold foil dots on it, and I'm going to cut down my snow globe and the 3 sausages with that. And then I'm cutting everything else out of white cardstock. So I've got my 3 pieces with the flux capacitor cut out of the first one. And then I have my 3 stabilizers, and I also have my little pull tab. So I'm going to zoom in here so I can put together the Magic Iris and you guys can see it up close. First thing I'm doing is taking those sausage pieces and adding the tabs on the end into the cutouts from that flux capacitor ring and making sure that those sausages line up really well with the outside edges. Then I'm going to take some mini glue dots. You want the 3/16 of an inch size. These are the perfect size for making this Magic Iris. And I'm going to put one on the little X that the die cuts into those sausage pieces. And I'm just picking it up with my craft pick. I always want to call it a pokey tool, but it is a craft pick. So I'm using my craft pick to place those glue dots right on top of the X so that they're nice and small and only cover that small little area so there isn't like adhesive where it doesn't belong. Then I'm going to take another one of my rings and layer that right over top. And it's really important that you have the side with the stitching detail facing up. Then I'm going to flip over this mechanism, and right where those 3 little marks are that the die has made, I'm going to add some tape runner from that section to the bottom edge just in a straight line. Then I'm going to add my stabilizer pieces right over top of that adhesive. And while you're doing this, you want to make sure that everything stays together. If it starts to slide apart, just kind of squeeze it back together so that everything is lined up nice and straight. Then I flipped it back over so that mechanism is right side up and added a bit of adhesive to only the bottom of those stabilizers. Then I can grab the pull tab piece and add some adhesive to only the bottom half of that. And I'm going to line that up next to one of those stabilizers so it makes a little V shape, add my final ring, and then gently hug those stabilizers over so that they're not too tight. It should not go all the way to that stitching detail. And then the mechanism should work when you give it a little pull on that tab. I also cut that snow globe piece out of some narwhal cardstock, and I'm just trimming off the bottom of that so that I can pop that in my Misty and add my sentiment right there. So I'm using a piece of acetate to be able to curve my sentiment a little bit, and that sentiment is from Merry Messages. So I just want to make sure that that stamp has something that can grab hold of so that it will stay in that curved line, and then I will shut the door of my Misty and use that to pick it up. I'm going to coat that narwhal cardstock with a little bit of powder from my powder tool, and mine is clogged, so I just opened it up to get some of that down. And then I'm going to ink up that sentiment using some Versamark ink. It's just a clear sticky ink that works great for heat embossing because it really grabs hold of that powder. So I stamped out best wishes for a happy new year, and I'm pressing down very gently so that I don't get a really squished sentiment. And then I'm going to coat that in some Ranger Superfine Detail Gold embossing powder. I gave that a couple of sprinkles to make sure that it was really well coated, tapped off the excess from the back, and then I'm going to grab my heat tool, which I have left heating off to the side for about 30 seconds, and then I will bring that to the cardstock piece. I couldn't find my reverse tweezers, so I had to use my hands, and it was very hot. But anyway, it looks amazing when that gold embossing powder catches the light. I buffed that off with a microfiber cloth, and now I'm going to stamp on the inside of my card. So I'm using MFT's Snow Cone cardstock and Lawn Fawn Merman ink to stamp out "You're So Cool" and a couple of snowflakes. And those are all from the Critters in the Snow stamp set. I didn't have a lot of options because I don't have very many New Year's stamps or sentiments, but I thought "You're So Cool" goes with any kind of winter theme card, and who doesn't appreciate hearing that? So now I've die cut several little pieces to start building my snow globe, and since I already had this tape runner adhesive out, I decided to just continue using it for the rest of the card. So I die cut another piece of that snow globe with white and just trimmed it down with some scissors to create a little snow bank. And then I'm adding that narwhal piece with the sentiment on it at the bottom. And then I've got these two little pieces that I die cut using the Storm Cloud cardstock, and those are going to get layered on the top and the bottom, and they've got that great detail on there that really gives them some nice texture. So in order to make sure that I'll have my magic iris positioned just right, I'm going to use my card base to help me out there. I folded over the little tabs from the sausages so they would be hidden out of sight, and I'm adding adhesive all over the top of the magic iris mechanism, and then I'm making sure that that tab is positioned just right in the top right corner. But I forgot that the magic iris needed to be in the closed position, the way it would be when your recipient gets it in the mail. And I also realized that those little stabilizer tabs were going to show through those little shine marks that are die cut on the snow globe. So I just used one of the extra pieces from the middle of the snow globe, and I trimmed that down to fit behind those little shine marks so that those stabilizer pieces would be covered up and you wouldn't see that because it didn't look very nice. So I started to attach that to the magic iris mechanism, and then when I went to pull on that tab, I realized that it was going in the wrong direction, and that is not the way I wanted it to go in my card. And that's when I also realized that, oh yeah, when the recipient gets it, you want it to be in the closed position because you want them to have that moment of surprise when they open it up. So thankfully I was able to pull off that snow globe piece, get the magic iris closed the way it should be, line it up on the card, and then attach that snow globe piece again, and now it is working correctly. So I wanted to throw on another pattern onto my card, so I picked another piece of paper from the Let It Shine 6x6 pack. This one is that same aqua, but it's also got a white stripe. So I trimmed that down with the outside in stitch rectangle stackables and added that to my card. And then I also needed to create the centerpiece for the magic iris. So I trimmed down another one of the white circle pieces that were die cut out from the rings. And then also that little aqua pattern paper piece was from cutting out the snow globe add-on. And I'm going to add my town right onto that. And I'll flip that over and cut off the excess so that it's going to fit nice and flush inside that magic iris opening. And I'll also add my little moon over on the left-hand side of that center building. And then in order to get that perfectly placed on the card, I'm going to put the magic iris over top again, make sure that it is in the open position, and then I'm going to add that right in the center. I'm just making sure that the magic iris is lined up perfectly where I want it, and then I'm pressing that down into place just by picking up that magic iris and making sure that it stays right where I wanted it. I'm going to add a tiny bit of foam adhesive right down at the bottom of the snow globe, far away from any place where that mechanism has to move, otherwise it won't. And then the only other adhesive I added was right on the backs of those stabilizers. So I'll peel off the release paper from that foam tape, line the magic iris right over the center, and also make sure it's centered on the card once again, and then press that down into place and close up my magic iris again so that I can decorate that little handle. I was trying to decide which of these I wanted to be the main color and which to be the arrow, but I ended up going with narwhal for the main color, and then I'm using that storm cloud cardstock again for that tiny little arrow, so it all matches with the base of the snow globe, and it's got those cool wintry colors. To decorate the outside of my snow globe, I'm going to add my two little snowmen. So I've got this little guy going on the left hand side, and then the other little guy with his colorful hat is going on the right. And then I also felt like it needed something else, so I die cut some snowflakes. These come with the Magic Iris Snow Globe add-on. So I just die cut those out of the extra white cardstock from coloring my pieces. And then I'm going to add these to the card just to kind of emphasize that wintry feel. So I added two of the larger ones onto the card base just to kind of get a little bit more movement on the card. But then the other snowflakes I'm going to add all around the outer part of that snow globe. So it really looks like the snow is falling inside that little snow globe. And I thought that was really fun with these tiny little ones as well. To finish off the card, I'm going to add a little bit of my favorite embellishment, crystal stickles. So I added it to the snowmen's scarves and earmuffs and hat. And then I'm also adding a little bit to each of the die cut snowflakes because snow is frosty and frozen and sparkly. And then I'll lift that up to the camera so you can see how it catches the light with that foiled paper and the gold embossing and the stardust stickles. I'll give you another peek at the inside, and then I'll give you another look at that Magic Iris mechanism in action. Super fun. These are so much fun to create and play with. I love this die. So if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a like and leave me a comment down below. Subscribe. Any interaction helps my channel out so much. If you're interested in any of the products I used, you'll find those listed and linked below the video. And if you'd like to keep watching, here are 2 extra videos I thought you might also enjoy. I hope you all have a wonderful holiday season and a very happy new year. Thank you so much for all your support and for watching. I hope you have an amazing day. Bye-bye.